I call this board meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Over that way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please be advised in the event of a fire emergency, an alarm will sound. Please note all emergency exits and evacuate well away from the building. At this time, we request everyone turn your cell phones to silence. Thank you for your cooperation. Additions, deletions, and changes to the agenda.
Yes, under Personnel 9.8, approval of substitute bus attendants and a bus driver. Approval of a new roster position of supervisor of transportation. Appointment of supervisor of transportation and appointment of automotive mechanic. I'm sorry, I said bus. Brian Manning is also a bus attendant, not bus driver, excuse me.
So we're going to have 8 through 11 under personnel added, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Motion for the consent agenda 1 through 8, please.
I'll make it.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carried. Communications, correspondence, Mr. Malasani?
Yeah, in your backup notes, you have our honor roll list from marking period 5. Our students continue to do quite well. Nearly 7 out of 10 are making honor roll or high honor roll.
Thank you. And we have our Raider Points of Pride. Our Calmum Elementary Chess Club won the Genesee Valley BOCES Season Championship with another incredible team performance. In the Advanced Division, Duncan McNear won first place. In the Intermediate Division, Maxwell Yannick won first place. And in the Beginners Division, Alicia Tate won first place. Congratulations to our Raiders and to Coach Greenlaw for guiding our team to an epic regional championship.
Last week, the elementary school began their annual week-long reading celebration. Parents as Reading Partners, also known as PARP, encourages parents to become a reading partner with their child at home to help with reading development, to promote a love of books, and to encourage their children to become lifelong readers. The week-long celebration ended with the return of another PARP festival. It was the first PARP festival since 2019.
And weren't they supposed to also read while they're camping?
Yes, we did a lot of reading.
While camping.
Yes, while camping.
There were rave
It was a lot of
reviews. It was a
quiet
good
time.
It looked really good.
Very fun.
Very fun.
Congratulations. Thank you. That was a lot of work for you guys.
Thanks.
National Honor Society hosted a Red Cross blood drive for our students and staff. We filled all of our spots in our time frame and had over 20 donors. Congratulations to Colton Ingrich for earning a first place in the Automotive Service Technology Competition at the Skills USA Regionals at Alfred State College Wellsville's campus. Colton is also a top 10 student and is honing his skills at his paid co-op placement at West Hare Auto Group in their service department. Congratulations.
Dan O'Neill and Sean Shell from Rochester's Local 13 Union visited for Lunch and Learn for grades 8 through 12 to speak about working in the building trades.
Our Adulting 101 class focused on how to understand college financial aid award packages.
Our Seussical musical cast and crew were treated to a special Zoom call with Broadway star Kevin Chamberlain. Kevin originated the role of Horton in the Broadway production of Seussical in 2001. He received a Tony nomination for his performance. Our Raiders really enjoyed this experience and connected with him through a fun Q&A session. Huge thanks to Kevin for taking the time to meet. He shared some inspiring insight and advice and has such a passion for theater and acting. Special thanks to our director Aaron Hodge for creating this wonderful experience for our Raiders.
And just a reminder, the musical is actually Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so please join us.
It is with great pride that we announce our Raiders that received LCAA winter season honors for the 2023-2024 season. Girls basketball All-Stars Ava Amaris and Hazel Nickerson, and the exceptional senior game for girls is Melina Bellows.
Yes.
Competitive cheer All-Star exceptional senior game Kaylin Jake, Gianna McCowan, Mackenzie Neary. All-Stars Kate McCowan, and Coach of the Year Michelle Carson. Wrestling All-Stars Jacob Bishop, Anthony Leach, Simon Martin, Jackson Pete, Austin Pittman, Garrett Thompson, and Coach of the Year, Coach Chip Day. Boys Basketball All-Stars, Exceptional Senior Game, Nate Dahl and Donnie Pete.
I can take this one. Congratulations to junior Hazel Nickerson, who was honored at the Section 5 Girls Basketball C2 Championship game at FLCC as an all-tournament selection. In her 3 sectional games this season, she scored 44 points, shooting 56%, made 27 rebounds, and had 17 blocks to lead our Raiders to the Final Four. Hazel currently stands 3rd all-time in program history in points with 1,088 and 2nd in rebounds with 948.
And we were well represented at the Section 5 Athletics Leadership Conference at FLCC. Special thanks to Coach Schock and our 4 Raiders who attended: Scott Bowman, Emma Brogan, Juliana Scott, and Jacob Wiley. The conference focused on diversity and inclusion and was led by RISE, a national nonprofit that educates and empowers the sports community to eliminate racial discrimination, champion social justice, and improve race relations. Our Raiders had the opportunity to work with many other Section 5 student athletes.
Thank you, everybody. Do we have any of the top 10 tonight?
I think they're all practicing.
All busy.
Yeah.
They're getting personalized invitations. I will circle back.
Thank you. Do we have a public forum tonight? Nobody has signed up. Superintendent's report? None. And old business, approval of updated civil service job descriptions. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the following updated civil service job descriptions as listed in the agenda. Motion, please.
I can make it.
And a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
One thing there is that we have now aligned all of our job descriptions to be consistent with Livingston County Civil Service Department. So great work with Jeremy and Sue making that happen.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carried. New business, number 1, budget development presentation number 3.
All right, Jeremy's going to join me up here. So with respect to...
Can you turn it back on?
All right, so here we are, March 19th. My hope is to bring a budget to the board to adopt the budget on April 9th. Right now, we're hearing there's a possibility that it might be an on-time budget in Albany, for that matter. But regardless, I think we're going to be in a good enough position to be able to bring the budget to the board for adoption on the 9th. If not, we'll do it on the 22nd. Just keep in mind the 22nd is a Monday. This year, it's on a Monday to coincide with the BOCES budget. Public hearing on the 14th, and also meet the candidates, as well as annual district budget vote, which will be on the 21st. So,
All right, so the tax cap, nothing's changed from the last time you saw it. It was submitted on March 1st, so 2.65 is our tax cap for the 24-25 school year. Big reason why it was just so high this year is our capital exclusions. Our debt was a lot higher than our aid, so that puts a bigger number for capital exclusions, which is an add to the tax cap formula. Okay, so just going through some BOCES expenses here. So this is every single BOCES coaster that we have, and it's the main function of the BOCES coaster. So there could be 30 coasters lumped into one, but the overall name of the coaster is on the board there. So BOCES usually goes up, I say roughly 4% a year. Just pointing out a couple there. Edutech went from 91 to 142. That is because we reduced a full-time position here at the district, and then we got a 0.5 through BOCES. In addition, we are running our day automation expenses through BOCES now on a contract per year, so we get 8 on it. So in the past, every time we called day, it would be a maintenance expense. We have to pay for it out of our buildings and grounds budget, no aid. If we pay an upfront cost at the beginning of the year, we actually receive aid and hopefully save some money in the process. So it worked out well for us. Another one you'll see a big increase there is enrichment opportunities and science kits. It's for the teaching regular schools. It went from 265 to 295. Big increase there is due to alternative education. So how alternative education works is if the student is enrolled the December prior to that budget year, so December of 23, you have to pay for that student in the subsequent year, the 24-25 year. So we have one student there that we'll be paying for. I worked with Dr. Chanel, so hopefully that student will come off the budget for next year, but it's a 1-year hit. BOCES, that usually goes up every year just based on BOCES costs for special education there. We're hopeful, I've been working with Mrs. Rogers on that to get some kids off of the BOCES. Unfortunately, we won't know that until April when those CSE meetings are done. And then your software and hardware down there, the second from the bottom, that went up roughly 4%. That's all the software the district uses and the hardware. Hardware budget just goes up a little bit to account for the Chromebook changes, and software is anything from Google to iReady, anything you can imagine is in that. Oh, and career and technology as well. So fourth from the bottom there went from 305 to 358. That is career and technology for placements at BOCES. We are coming out of the pandemic. It's a 3-year average. So because now the pandemic is coming off, we're getting back to more realistic numbers, and that's why that cost is going up. I project it to go up big again one more year, and then we should see a level out. Over here, not much to talk about here. Third from the top there, BOCES Summer School. Those are based on actuals, so we'll actually reach out to BOCES around February or January and get those numbers. And then at the bottom there, research planning. I'm setting aside, or the district is setting aside about $5,100 for grant writing. So that'll cover between 1 and 2 grants depending on what we apply for. And even if we get 1 grant in 20 years, that's going to pay for itself. And we get 74 cents back on the dollar. So all in all, total BOCES expense for the upcoming school year, we're estimating just under $3.1 million. Looking at our total expenditures, so this is everything from all those function codes that we talked about at the beginning: general support, instruction, transportation, community services, debt service, and our employee benefits. So right now we have our budget at $20,890,000, and that is roughly a 2.5% increase from last year, which is well under the rate of inflation. Again, debt service dropped big in that. I don't want people to think we're saving money. Our aid is also going to drop when we look at the next slide as well. And that is the 2017 bond came off the books in 23-24. This is our revenue sources. So for revenue, as of now, we are using the executive budget number for foundation aid that came out. Everything else is pretty much a rollover except for public and private excess cost aid. Public and private is based on your students enrolled in BOCES and enrolled in the private and parochial schools. So those numbers have been updated. Everything else is a roll forward, just based on, we don't know what we're going to spend. For example, BOCES and transportation are expense-driven aids. What we spend this year, we get a percentage of that back next year. We don't know how we're going to finish. So right now we're blowing over last year's numbers, and we'll look to see if we can adjust that in the next month here before we finalize the budget. Keeping appropriated fund balance the same at $465 as of now, and appropriated reserves as of the $420, keeping it consistent. So right now we got revenue showing of $20,344,000. With that, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Nelson.
So currently our budget shortfall is $546,000 as we move forward and over the next month. So I shared with you some ideas and thoughts how we would close that gap. And we will refine our revenue sources here over the next month as well. But I don't anticipate reducing staff at this point in order to run our educational program. I think that's important for people to know. We will depend on our reserves a little bit more than we have in the past. But we should be able to sustain our entire program. So some of the things that are out of the budget, just so you know what's in and what's out. So administrative priorities, we have a reduction of $95,000 from our last budget presentation. So we wanted to add a .3 art teacher. That's not going to happen this year. Eliminate character education. It's not that we're not going to have it. We may not introduce a new program. Eliminate instrumental music cleaning. Reconfigure elementary musical, so that's actually one of our board goals. So reconfigure means we're going to find a way to fund that, but it won't be new money. Same thing with instructional strengthening, which is really a professional development of $26,500. We will provide professional development for our staff, but we will have to reconfigure to make that work. And the plan that Mr. Nardone presented either last meeting or 2 meeting, we're not in position to have a $30,000 placeholder for equipment, but it's something the board should consider in coming years. So that's a reduction of $95,000. So the numbers that you saw before of it, that's a part of that. That's not subtracting, that is still our gap at 526. So again, everything that we presented does comply with the board's access criteria that we established at the beginning of the budget process. Transportation, we will be looking to purchase one bus, about $180,000, to replace a bus, an aging bus, I think it was 110,000 miles. Capital outlay, we will be adding the sidewalk, diagonal sidewalk between the middle and elementary school. We will also be adding the sidewalk from the band room to the parking lot over next to Mr. Trosis area, as well as some asbestos removal in the basement for elbows and joints. What questions do you have?
Can you speak a little more, maybe it's too early, about, you mentioned that for revenue you're using the executive budget. Can you speak publicly to what is coming out of Albany right now?
Yeah, so from Albany, both the House and the Senate, they're in agreement that there'll be a safe harbor. It doesn't impact Caledonia Mumford, but at least half the schools in our BOCES are overfunded. The safe harbor would mean that they would receive at least the amount of aid they received last year. This year, they're actually calling for cuts for half of our school districts. We're not in that boat. The other big piece is that they're looking at a due minimum of 3%. So 3% is a little over $230,000 for Caledonia Mumford. Right now, I believe we have $130,000 planned in our budget because our budget guidelines call for the executive budget proposal. So we could see upwards of another $100,000 in aid. Should we receive that aid, just so you know, we'll be looking to decrease our dependency on reserves. So if at 350, it might come to 250 or 300 to 200. That's the intent behind it. So right now, it looks very favorably that there will be a budget that will be funding public education in New York. There's still going to be a lot of losers in that. Please understand that, 3%, when the rate of inflation, I think, is 4.6. That's not enough. A typical year for Caledonia Mumford, if we were to receive 3% state aid and went out at 2% of the tax levy, it's going to roughly get us like $450,000. On average, we're closer to $700,000 of increases in expenditures per year. So that's, even though with that increase, it's still not enough.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks, guys. New business number 2, election inspector rates. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the election inspector rates for the 2024-2025 budget vote, with the head election inspector making $24 an hour and the election inspector making $18 an hour. Motion, please.
I'll make it.
And a second.
Sure, second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carried. Approval of meal and incidental rate for the 2023-2024 school year. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the reimbursement of meal, entertainment, and incidental expenses at the GSA rate, which stands for the U.S. General Services Administration. Motion, please.
I'll make it.
And a second.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
The discussions, we will actually have this part of our reorganizational meeting in the future, so everything would occur in July.
Would that include mileage also? Where's the mileage come from?
Mileage is different, but that is the IRS rate.
Yep, and we do that separately at the reorg as well.
Thanks.
So the GSA rate depends on where you go, where you visit in terms of the cost. It's different. If you were in New York City compared to going to Batavia for a conference and so forth, you're funded at a different rate, so.
So is that saying, as opposed to somebody just submitting their receipts, it's going to be more of a per diem
That's correct.
fixed rate?
They would still submit receipts, they get the up to, and then based on where they travel, we plug that city and county in, and it tells us what they can get per day.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carried. Approval of class of 2029 out-of-state trip. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the request of the class of 2029 to participate in an overnight out-of-state field trip to Washington, D.C. in May of 2025. per the regulations set forth by Board Policy Number 8460, field trips. Cost for chaperones will be passed on to the price of the student fee. A motion, please,
I'll make it.
and a second.
Second?
Any questions?
So as we get closer, once we identify the chaperones, we'll bring it back to the board with the itinerary and final supervisors for that, chaperones for that night.
Is this is the first trip going back to Washington DC in several years?
Yeah, we have one going this year.
Okay,
Yes.
May.
fantastic.
March,
May.
May. Yeah, so there'll be,
This
Second
year's
trip
eighth
back.
grade will
Yes.
travel, and then this is you giving this year's seventh graders permission to begin the process. Thank you.
Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. That motion carried. Number 5, Board Policy Revision. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the revision of Board Policy Number 6550, leaves of absence. Motion, please,
I'll make it.
and a second.
Second?
Any discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carried. Number 6, approval of new roster position of school bus dispatcher trainee. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the creation of the school bus dispatcher trainee position effective March 19th, 2024. Motion, please,
I'll make it.
and a second.
Second?
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay.
you can say yes, listed.
That motion carried. The entire thing?
Yeah.
Number 7, the SECRA for the 2024-2025 capital outlay project as listed in the agenda,
So you have to do a roll call.
but this is a roll call vote. So any questions on it before the vote? Okay. Mr. Richter votes yes. Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dietrich?
Yes?
Mr. Belenek?
Yes.
All good, Mrs. Booth?
I am.
Okay. Number 8, creation of transportation proposition. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, place the following resolution on the ballot on May 21st, 2024. This proposition is for the school bus as written in the agenda, not to exceed $180,000. Motion, please,
I'll make it.
and a second.
Second?
Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. That motion carried. Number 9, executive session. Resolved that the Board of Education adjourn to executive session at
6:23.
6:23 to discuss the employment and employee histories of particular persons. Motion, please,
I'll make it.
and a second.
Sure. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carried. Thank you. Resolved that the Board of Education return to executive session at 7:42 PM. Motion, please,
Make it.
and a second.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. We are officially back to do personnel 1 through 11 as laid out in the agenda, which is number 1, approval of substitutes. Number 2, resignation of teacher aide for purpose of retirement. Number 3, resignation of cleaner. Number 4, appointment of head football coach. Number 5, approval of student teachers. Number 6, approval of athletic volunteers. Number 7, appointment of modified baseball coach. Number 8, approval of substitute bus attendants. Number 9, approval of new roster position of supervisor of transportation. Number 10, appointment of supervisor of transportation. And number 11, appointment of automotive mechanic. I have a motion for 1 through 11, please,
I'll make it.
and a second.
Second?
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. That motion carried. Resolved that the Board of Education adjourn the meeting of March 19th, 2024 at 7:44 PM. Motion, please,
I'll make it.
and a second.
Second?
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried.